My name is George Cavros. I work with the Natural Resources Defense Council and Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. Those two organizations were heavily engaged in the 15-month rulemaking process before the Public Service Commission and advocated for meaningful renewable energy policy, not only because of the environmental benefits, but also because of the job benefits and the ratepayer protection benefits. And I also want to congratulate Orange County on trying to attract clean energy investment to the county. It's a sector of the economy that has immense potential. But before we do that, we need to get the rules and regulations right at the state level. And quite frankly, Florida is at a crossroads. I mean, we're almost at 12% unemployment. Even the Florida Chamber of Commerce has ranked Florida slightly negative for economic development. You know, some of our traditional economic sectors, like construction, like development, have declined due to situations outside of our control, and legislative leaders are being asked to create new economic engines, but at the same time not unduly burden Floridians in the process. And the clean tech industry provides a real opportunity, a unique opportunity to Florida to kickstart a new economic engine, to create jobs, and also in the process to protect ratepayers as well. Now, this is a graph prepared by the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, which shows the potential of over 50,000 jobs in Florida with a 20% renewable energy standard or renewable portfolio standard by 2020. And that was based on studies by Navigant Consulting and also the University of Florida. As you can see, it's primarily biomass and solar opportunities, which Florida is very rich in those resources. A lot of times people ask, what is a green job? And if you look at this graph, half of it is manufacturing, and another quarter of it is construction and craft trades. It's almost 75% of green jobs require the types of skills that our construction industry now has. Many of those folks are unemployed, and they could very easily jump into the clean energy economy. They could hit the ground running and be quickly employable. I also wanted to break it down to job potential per megawatt. Recent studies have shown that 1 megawatt of capacity of solar will create anywhere from 15 to 30 jobs. 15 is on the lower end. That's generally utility scale solar. 30 tends to be more distributed generation type solar. Also, biomass will create 9 direct jobs per megawatt of capacity. And the great thing about biomass and solar is, as it was referenced earlier, the money stays in the state. 85% of money spent on producing homegrown biomass stays within a 75-mile radius of the project, stimulating the local economies. And the same pretty much could be said with solar. It's important to note that 80 cents out of every dollar we spend on energy leaves the state. And what we need to do, as mentioned earlier by Jim, is keep those dollars in the state. Now, there's a whole host of benefits to renewable energy. Job and economic benefits is just one. Rate impact protection for customers is another. And I kind of wanted to touch on that with you because you often hear that renewable energy is too expensive. And I want to kind of reframe this for you a little bit. First of all, the kilowatt-hour cost of biomass is already competitive with baseload generation. The problem that biomass developers have in Florida is that the contracts they're offered through power purchase agreements, the avoided cost that they have to meet is simply too low. And you'll hear this all the time from third-party providers. They cannot do a project at 5 cents or 4 cents a kilowatt hour. It's simply too low. I pay 12 cents, my retail rate, so there's a lot of room there for negotiation with those biomass developers. I can also let you know that solar is already cost competitive with peaking plants, natural gas combustion cycle peaking plants. Those are the plants that the utility will turn on when its utility demand is peaking. In South Florida, it's usually about 1 to 4 o'clock in the summer days when those air conditioners are humming. Solar its profile is really well suited for that, and Jennifer pointed that out in her presentation. Also, conventional power has experienced spiking fuel costs in recent years and also increased capital construction costs. We've seen double-digit increases in conventional power over the last few years because of that. One of the reasons is that natural gas is a highly volatile fuel source. Natural gas will comprise over 54% of our energy mix by 2017. And again, pointing to its high volatility, it was $10.35 per 1,000 cubic feet in 2005. It's now at about $3.50. And while it's good that it's low, that type of volatility isn't necessarily good for customers. Also, capital construction costs of conventional energy is going up due to increases in cement and steel and the things it takes to build conventional power plants. I'll just give you an example. Nuclear capital construction cost estimates have tripled from $2,500 a kilowatt of capacity in 2005 to over $7,500 in 2009. And I'd like to point, to solar and also biomass. By contrast, renewables have their construction costs or capital costs are dropping. The price of per watt of peak PV solar has dropped from $27 in 1980 to about $4 today, and I'll have to double check with the solar folks to make sure I'm accurate on that, because sometimes you get different figures for that. Also, there's no fuel component in solar and wind, and generally the fuel source for biomass is pretty stable. So renewables, well, your energy mix is like a stock portfolio. Renewables are your stable investments. The more we can integrate them into our energy mix, the better off everybody will be. Basically, you have a trend line going up this way with conventional energy. You have a trend line going down in terms of cost for renewable energy. So we need to start integrating those things as soon as possible. Also, there's avoided water use with renewable energy. Water is the lifeblood of Florida. Conventional power plants use a lot of water. In fact, in early 2008, there was a scare that some of the nuclear reactors in the southeast might have to be shut down because of drought conditions, because there simply wasn't enough water to provide for the cooling requirements. Also, grid support. We've heard that our transmission grid is old. It's going to need updating. So how do you provide relief to that? Well, what you do, one of the things you can do to reduce line losses is place distributed generation in closer proximity to demand. That reduces line loss, and it also mitigates the need for additional infrastructure construction. And, of course, you've got the avoided CO2 emissions benefits from solar and wind. And biomass is generally CO2 neutral. And before I jump into renewables, I need to touch on efficiency. I know that Jim touched on this as well. But efficiency is your lowest cost resource to any utility. It's a well-run program is about 2 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Generally, new power is going to cost you about 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Not only that, but it helps maintain your renewable target baseline from increasing. If your demand increases at the same time, you're trying to get a percentage of that of those sales from renewables. You're simply going to be chasing an ever higher baseline. And that's why 17 leading states have made a commitment to capture at least 1% of their demand through energy savings. In Florida, we're not doing as well. We've recently finished a energy goals docket at the Public Service Commission, and they have taken steps to increase energy savings in Florida, but we still have a long way to go. Historically, Florida's utilities have been capturing about 0.2%. So other states have made a commitment to capture about 5 times more. Also, improving energy efficiency does create jobs. Jobs like heating, air conditioner installers, carpenters, roofers. Again, these are the types of people that are currently unemployed and can step in and can do this work. The ACEEE estimates that we could create over 19,000 jobs in Florida just from efficiency if we were to achieve 15% of our demand through energy savings by 2020. Okay, creating a renewable energy market through an RPS. The overriding goal is 2 things, transparency and certainty. Developers need that, otherwise they won't come to the state, they won't invest. And Tommy touched on some of the major policy design components in the first presentation, but they are targets and timelines, eligible renewable resources. They're not the same in every state. Do you want to encourage a specific resource, or do you want to encourage distributed generation? The RPSs right now are using a renewable energy credit as a form of compliance and also a premium payment to encourage investment. Many RPSs have an investment cap, or alternatively a compliance payment, which I'll touch on in a moment. They also have enforcement provisions, and some of them have exemptions from the RPS, and that generally goes to municipal utilities and rural cooperatives, or in some of these states not covered through an RPS.